center right. Gun!
So you're in a fighting stance. In the same way that you're going to throw a punch, I want you to stand that same way when you're holding your pistol, when you're holding your pistol. All right, good afternoon. MFB with MFB Tactical here. We're going to talk about a topic that is pretty popular right now. We're going to talk about use of force. Now, use of force is governed usually by about three things. The most important thing is your safety. Do what's safe for you. Number two is the law. Do what's lawful. Number three, do what your policy dictates that you do. With use of force, we got to remember, okay, in the moment, you're going to revert back to your training. You're also going to revert back to instinct, okay? So you're going to do usually what's safe for you first. And then your training is going to move you towards your lawful and your policy-driven reactions to force. So one of the things that I look at is you use the force that's necessary, not the force that is possible. What's that mean? You know, you have a 12-year-old kid that is resisting you taking him into custody. Well, you could use a controlled takedown and put the kid down hard, but do you have to? If you don't have to, you don't. Yeah, sure, we like to handle people on the ground if we could, but if you don't have to, don't. Use the minimum amount of force necessary to effect your arrest. Listen, I've been in many situations where I was legally justified and I was justified by policy to use deadly force. Absolutely good shoots all day. So I could use force, but I didn't have to use force. There's times where you can tell based on your knowledge, training, and experience that someone is actually accessing a weapon and trying to discard it rather than accessing a weapon to use it against you. You're only going to get that being on the streets and being in those situations. And I've been in enough of them to know the difference. And I'm not saying that there's not going to come a time where I don't know. Because at the end of the day, you got to do what's safe for you. So when you can't tell, that's where that instinct kicks in. And that's where you have to do what you got to do. But you got to remember, use of force should be necessary and it should be reasonable. So when you're looking at everything that is in the media right now, I know for me, I don't try to Monday morning quarterback. But one of the things some of the things I'm looking for is, did the law enforcement person feel like that force was necessary? Or was it just available? I don't use force that's available, I use it when it's necessary. And that's what I like to urge for all of us to do. When you're deciding what force to use the force that's necessary. Now when you decide that force is necessary, crank it up, use it, and as soon as the resistance stops, the use of force should stop. And when you're writing your reports, it's a good idea to have a good use of force instructor on your team that you can call on and you can explain the situation to them, and they can let you know, hey, well, here's what you meant. Because let's call it like this. Some of us can't articulate what we're thinking in the words, but you can talk to a partner who's been to more training than you and say, hey, listen, here's the actual term for what you're telling me. So let's lean on our partners to help us out with these situations. Let's, when we're in roll calls, when we're sitting around eating lunches and dinners, let's talk about our own personal experiences with use of force so other folks can pull from those and benefit from them. Listen, not only do you benefit from those stories of use of force, but your citizens that you serve, your family, and even the suspects that you're going to be dealing with will benefit from those uses of force, because at the end of the day, I'm sure they want to survive too. So let's do what we can to be better officers, to get better at using force, to use more appropriate force, and not just look at it as we should not use force, because hey, call it like it is. Sometimes you have to use force. If you didn't have to use force, you could tell people, hey, listen, 5 o'clock today, meet me down at the LEC and fill out this booking sheet, turn it into the booking officer. It doesn't happen that way, okay? We have to take them against their will. And we have to remember that. The public's got to know that. We're taking people's freedom against their will. They don't want to go a lot of times. We have to make them. So, be good at uses of force, be appropriate, be reasonable, and study it. That is an essential job function, okay? So, enough about use of force, okay? Let's talk about a product. Today we have a It's actually M16 chambered in 300 blackout. But specifically what I want to talk about are Ruger backup iron sights. This rifle is dressed with Ruger backup iron sights, front and rear. If you look at them, they look kind of like the mag pull that we're all used to. You press a button on the side to flip up the sights, both front and rear. The rear has notch marks for your windage, and it has a single aperture in the rear. Okay, that's one thing that you'll notice that's different than the mag pull. It's just got a single aperture. In the front, though, is the main thing I want to talk about. Now, these are unsolicited reviews. What I do is I go to my gun room or my trunk and I pick up stuff that I've acquired or purchased. Well, this front sight, I've got an issue with. There's no detent to keep the front sight post in position. So it is possible for your front sight post to back out. That concerns me. There's no positive click to the rotations. And I'll tell you, because I'm kind of OCD, whenever I have an opportunity to check my rifle, which is usually a few times a week, I keep my optic, my EOTech optic, and the iron sights co-witnessed. So because I'm paranoid about it, I always verify my iron sights using my EOTech with that true co-witness. So the Ruger sights come in separate packs, a front and a rear. So I would say that the rear, the price point is lower than the mag pull, and I think that's appropriate because they're not as loaded with features. But one thing I'd really like to see Ruger do, if they're going to get into this business, is to fix the front sight post detent problem. It matters, especially when you're expecting your sights to be rock solid. So that's what I think about these Ruger backup iron sights. You can go pick up a set, check that. I bought 2 of these front sights and both of them are missing that detent. So that's that. Well, listen, that's it today from MFB Tactical. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, please put them in the comment section. Please like, subscribe, share this with your buddies. And if you have any suggestions, also put that in the comment section. Be safe out there.